It is the start of term. Let's just show you this headline in The Guardian. Jamie Oliver calls for free school meals to be extended across England. Now, it's referring to the universal rollout in London's state-funded primary schools. He would like to see it universally spread across the country because from today, free school meals will be offered to all primary school pupils across London for a year. So, Bim, starting with you, do you agree with Jamie Oliver? Should it be for all state primary school pupils to get free school meals in England?
I don't think necessarily that's what we need to do, but I think that we need to make sure that those who need free school meals get them, and that's indeed what the policy is at the moment.
Means testing is garbage. Let's just get this out of the way right at the start of the segment, right? Let's get it out of the way. Means testing is stupid. It's bad policy. First of all, any phase out that you do after the entry level point for getting access to this social benefit, functionally the same as the tax, but without any of the administrative costs. So means testing is just on balance cheaper overall than targeted policies, because not only is the effective cost of these the same, but also you don't have to pay a bunch of administrative costs that there was no need to pay for in the first place. Means testing is garbage, just on terms of financials alone. On top of the financials, there's also the political optics of this, right? By having targeted benefits and targeted things like these, you create resentment amongst people who just fall outside of the brackets that you set. Someone who earns £20,000 a year and their kids do get free school meals, it gets resented by someone who earns £25,000 a year, whose kids don't qualify for free school meals, because even though their actual standards of living are much smaller, one of them gets access to benefit, one of them doesn't, right? Now, this resentment can lead to a rightward shift in policy by further constraining the group that gets access to these things, or the demonisation of the group that get access to that benefit overall. So you get rid of the means testing, everyone gets access to it, there can be no resentment. There's a great article by Matt Bruenig about this. I highly advise people do watch it. I'll put the link in the description.
Really, this is a question of priorities. Sadiq Khan in London has chosen to do it for a year, I've noticed. He hasn't chosen to do it all the way through.
It's quite significant.
He's chosen to do it for a year because...
Also going to, again, defend Sadiq Khan here. The reason why I said for a year, the original funding for this policy came from an additional extra money he was not expecting in the budget out of business rates, right? So if that level of income from business rates continues into next year, one can only assume that such a well-liked and supported policy will continue. What I don't think he's doing is saying it will be a year and then it will end. It will be gone for a year and then we'll review it later based on what our funding looks like at the time. I don't think that's necessarily a bad way of looking at it. I would prefer there be a wholesale promise to keep it because it should be fucking government policy at this point. But the fact that we're getting at least a year of it and then there'll be a review of it later is far more than we're getting from, say, I don't know, the Labour front bench. Why do you think they're attacking Sadiq Khan? Because he's making them look bad. Sadiq Khan is outshining the Labour Party front bench. So is Andy Burnham. So was Jamie Driscoll, hence his removal from the shortlist to be the Mayor of the North East.
Because ultimately that money has to come from somewhere and that has to be traded off against other priorities. But look, he's made that decision in London. He's going to have to explain where he's going to find the money from that from, or where he's taking money away from. But I don't think it...
He already said where he found the money. It was from business rates. This idea that, this is expenditure that he's going to have to find. No, he's already found it. It was a snap decision made by Khan on the basis of extra money in the budget that was unallocated. Unless you believe the flourishing business sector in London deserves like a tax cut. Right? Because if you're going to say, well, there's going to be either business rates generating revenue or we can cut the business rates or spend it on free school meals, I prefer it was funded on school meals. Because that's what he's saying here. Sadiq Khan seems to be the last left-leaning Labour person with any kind of power. Andy Burnham is like the only other soft left person that you get in a pretty high-ranking Labour position. Hence why he's doing, again, another mayor doing the good thing, i.e. bringing buses back into public control. So much he gets sidelined by the Labour leadership because he's making them look bad. Because Labour aren't committing to this. They're just going to wait for some train for the franchises to expire, to then take those over. Probably not buy the rolling stock. We don't know until manifesto comes out, but I'm in no doubt the paying for the rolling stock from like the German and Korean private equity firms that own our rolling stock is not going to be a particular policy, because that would involve spending some money on the front end to bring these into public ownership and control. I don't think that's going to happen. But outside of the trains, they're not nationalising the buses either, and Andy Burnham has outflanked them, so he has to be minimised.
It makes sense necessarily for young people that can afford it to necessarily have it free.
Right, and Liz Kendall, Labour agrees about ruling out, in fact, as the party has, introducing free school meals for all children in England if you win the general election. So is Sadiq Khan wrong?
I think it's brilliant that Sadiq has found the money to be able to do this in London. In my own city, in Leicester, I chair the programme Feeding Leicester to end hunger in the city, and so I know how important it is.
But you don't want to see it rolled out?
Have hungry minds, not hungry bellies.
You don't want it rolled out across England?
What we have said we'll do is for every primary school child to have breakfast clubs. That is important because it helps children be ready to learn, it helps improve attendance, and it also helps in terms of parents who really need those extra hours in the morning for their kids so they can go to work. That's our priority as a first
Nice avoiding
step.
the question.
You're making the argument.
Yeah, the actual question was about free school meals here, and you've basically said no. What we're going to do is spend like a similar amount of money on something with far less actual utilitarian good. Like, we already have the stats showing that money you put into free school meals has like a positive ROI on like productivity output in the country. Well, we already know that money you spend on these things, you get back in terms of better performance in the economy because the children that grow up much better fed, right? That's always good for their development. And then you've just said, well, actually, we're going to have breakfast clubs instead. Okay, right? Not the same as free school meals, though, is it? But again, it's really weird, like the optics game they're playing here. Okay, we can afford to give kids breakfast, but not lunch? I'm like, what's going on? What do you think is the optical win from this?
Aren't you, Liz, then, for if it's good enough for schools in London and for pupils there, then why not good enough for
Well, we want something for pupils right across the country in every primary school, which is those breakfast clubs, because it is vital that children start school ready to learn, and that's a huge part of it.
And let's also not forget that Sadiq Khan is only rolling this out for primary school kids, which is good. I'm glad that he's done it. But in Tower Hamlets, under Lutfur Rahman, we're getting all of the secondary school kids as well. Aspire have managed to find the funds to give everybody there in Tower Hamlets free school meals throughout their schooling life. But Sadiq Khan's found the money to do it for primary school kids. And yet Liz Kendall's here saying, well, actually, we can only do breakfast, sorry, whilst being outflanked by multiple left-wing parties, or left-wing individuals even, or slightly left-of-centre individuals in Sadiq Khan's case.
Now, in your new role in the shadow cabinet, you could be the Work and Pensions Secretary next year after the general election. Commit to free school meals for all primary school children in England.
Because I think that if you make a commitment, you need to show how you will pay for it. Sadiq has done that in London. We have no idea what the state of the economy is going to be under this government in 12 weeks, let alone 6 months or 12 months' time. So we will only set out commitments when we show how we pay for them. But we absolutely believe in tackling child poverty and making sure...
How are you going to pay for these breakfast clubs then? Is that going to come out of the VAT charge on private school fees? Like, how much are you short from this VAT charge on private schools that you can afford breakfast clubs, but you can't afford primary school meals? It's interesting that she never sets out the actual numbers on these for people to actually scrutinise.
Does Labour's Keir Starmer need to be bolder on issues like this?
Yes, in short. But I think it's a very good thing that Sadiq Khan's doing in London, and it mirrors what's being done in Wales and I think in Scotland as well, which is backed by Scottish Labour as well. So there is a consensus on this. It was in the 2019 Labour manifesto as well, fairly uncontentious promise there, and of course was fully funded. But I do think breakfast clubs are really important, and in Wales they're doing both. So I would hope in time, as we get close to the election, we'll see Labour in England, where obviously because education has devolved, we will see that commitment harden up and have both, like we have in Wales, where Labour is in government, because it is a really important policy.
Inai?
Well, the price of food has got more.
Mark Drakeford, again, another one of like the good Labour people, right? If someone's asking about left-leaning Labour people in government, Mark Drakeford is one of those people, again, outflanking the National Labour Party on policy.
Expensive, and also with rising energy costs, that a lot of families that otherwise would have been able to afford things like this are really struggling. I agree with Bim that I don't think necessarily the right approach is to just universalise it. I think there's other ways that we can look at it, maybe raising the threshold for eligibility so that more families that perhaps are experiencing greater poverty during the cost of living crisis can benefit from schemes like this. But I don't think the answer all the time is just to make it available for lots of families that can afford it and are quite happy to continue paying for it.
All right, well, let's talk...
Again, they don't have any policy behind this. They don't have any idea of what the utility behind any of these policies are. They just go, oh, well, they can afford it, they can pay for it themselves. This is my moralistic position. Rather than actually scrutinising the impact of the policy from first principles. Where's the money going to get spent? Is it cost effective? Does it give you positive ROI? I don't care about how I want to moralise these positions. Because the moral position I have is that all children deserve to get fed regardless. But that's not a way you win people over based upon what the real impact of policy is, which is, of course, always utility. Utility is all that matters when you're crafting policy. Whether or not you believe in the moral underpinning of your policy is good, I couldn't give a of shit, even though my morals are correct on this one, because children do deserve to get fed. The actual utility is that universality is better and cheaper and more politically optically viable, okay? And that's what my position is, as well as the fact that on a moral grounds, we should be feeding children. In the same way that just putting homeless people in homes is cheaper, is more effective, and actually solves the problem and is better politically. Of course, my moral position is that homeless people should be put in homes, right? Housing is a human right. But I'm not going to change anybody's minds with this. But it just so happens that the moralistic position one is also the one with the highest utility as well.
If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does help out the channel and the algorithm. And if you click the bell notification icon, it will let you know when I go live and when I upload videos. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my handle is @NoJusticeMTG, and that is Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to support my channel in a more financial manner, you can do so by becoming a member for just 99p, by super chatting, or by supporting me on Patreon, with the link is in the description of this video, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next segment.